One rainy day, Martin Groundhog was smoothing his self-made saliva and dirt concrete against his burrow's oldest walls. He noticed something strange he had never seen before. A new tunnel. How peculiar, he thought. I do not recall digging this tunnel. Why, I shut this tunnel down for travel a year ago. He slopped the pile of mud to the ground for his repairs and squeezed through the tiny entry hole. Rather tight, he grumbled, but his rotund body squished and squeezed as he pushed through the cramped tunnel, and eventually he came out to a large den, where a new family of rabbits had set up refuge. The bunnies were spooked, assuming Martin could not fit through their tiny doorway. "What is the meaning of this, rabbits?" he shouted, tail shaking and slapping. "Mr. Martin, honest I am. We haven't a want to be here, but we must be here, you see. Our old den collapsed. The metal roots holding it together had turned red and rotten." The rabbit, a hare, explained before formally introducing himself. "Where have my manners gone? Jackalope Henry, at your gazing pleasure, Mr. Martin." Martin scrunched his nose, inhaled the damp air, eyed the desperate and soggy rabbits huddling for warmth around a pile of grass and nuts. His big teeth ground together, and he huffed. "What sort of name is that? Why, it sounds made up. Are you on the lam? Running from the law?" "Be a rabbit I might. I don't exactly love running, Mr. Martin. And certainly no lambs here," Jackalope retorted with a grin, feet picking up and stomping down as he checked beneath them in jest. "Honest, I tell you, our old den fell right down from the sky. The whole grove went running, I tell you." "I would believe that only with my eyes," Martin declared. "Then I might be so inclined to take you," Jackalope generously offered. Martin's flat tail slapped against the walls of the burrow in frustration, but ultimately relented. The following morning, when the storm front looked clear for at least a few hours, Martin and Jackalope met at the entrance to the burrow with their knapsacks of travel supplies and personal trinkets. "Are we on our way, then, Jackalope?" "Sure ams, Mr. Martin. Follow after me. My grove was that way, towards the north. We can make it by the sun's highest point, if the weather holds." And so the two set off as a less than merry band of situational adventurers. They passed over the burbling creeks of brick-colored water and through the forest of weeping, always winter trees. Eventually, they reached a small clearing where the trees had maintained their leaves at the tips of their tallest branches, making for a nice overcast. In the center of the clearing, a beautiful, shiny rock, smooth as butter, with a strange icon pressed deeply in its center, caught the attention of Martin, who so enjoyed collecting leftover odds and ends. While Jackalope sat his rump down to rest, Martin wandered carelessly forward. A rope pulled upward through the leaves and debris towards the canopy in just a few seconds, and Martin's legs were bound in a snare. A symphony of cackles and caws echoed through the eerie clearing as crows descended in ambush, perching across the branches. "Tasty meats," dozens of crows exclaimed at once in shattered unison. "Tasty bits and morsels," they continued. But Jackalope was swift, faster than any distracted bird could be. He waited for a beam of light to clear through the cloudy skies and tossed his knapsack in the air, flinging beautiful, glinting, shiny baubles in all directions. He ran faster than he ever had and sunk his pointy front teeth into the tense rope, gnawing and gnashing as Martin squirmed uncomfortably in panic. The crows dispersed in a frenzy, colliding and fighting amongst themselves for a claim over the baubles. Just as Jackalope snapped the last frayed linen fiber, a large, one-footed raven landed beside him and spread her wings wide. As its sharp beak snapped and screamed at the tiny hare, Martin came scampering and chugging as best he could, slamming headfirst into the raven and crashing into a tree. "Hurry, Jackalope!" Martin exclaimed as the raven attempted to regain consciousness following the impact. "Looks like you're leading the way now, Mr. Martin," Jackalope cheered back. The two fought heavy breaths as the sounds and mimicking echoes of the fight raging behind them faded. The sludgy rain picked up again shortly after, but just before Martin and Jackalope reached the long expanse where the old rabbit den had been. The massive reflective exterior rested awkwardly on the ground, shattered and spread across dozens of yards. Its metal branches stood rigidly upright, torn and sheared where they must have snapped and bent as the upper stories of the den fell from the sky. The two carefully crawled inside to take shelter from the weather. They began to explore the concrete tunnels that had crushed in on themselves from the impact. "Your home seemed rather quaint," Martin offered, trying to lighten the mood. Jackalope sighed, shuffling through his old turf his family had dragged inside for bedding and rummaging through the remains of their old items and fur. "It was quaint," Jackalope hesitantly and nostalgically agreed. "But now it is gone. Just as I said. Might you believe us now, Mr. Martin?" "I believe you now, Jackalope. You are an honest rabbit that does not come with lambs attached." The two shared their first friendly moment as they chuckled. "Perhaps, Mr. Henry, if you all would like to stay in my den, well, honest rabbits do honest work, I've heard." "That they do, Mr. Martin. Just as good groundhogs build good homes."